In today's episode of Randomland, we get deep into Disneyland history. We get deep into the construction and what's coming up. And we get deep underwater. Oh! Well, we're back at Disneyland. What a glorious zippity-doo-dah day it is. After several pretty big and lengthy rainstorms, the sun has finally decided to grace us with its presence and warmth. And what better place to celebrate the return of sunshine and happiness but the happiest place on earth, Disneyland. Today I'm wandering around over here in Critter Country, the land over here surrounding the world-famous Splash Mountain. And it's one of my favorite places in the whole park. Maybe at the root of that, it's because Splash Mountain first opened up in 1989, sort of smack dab in the middle of my childhood. It was sort of one of the first Disneyland rides to open up that I was aware of the hype and the excitement of a brand new attraction. One of the first times I can remember standing in line, being stoked to be one of the first of my friends to get to ride something and then report back. Plus, at the time this attraction was brand new, I had just started attending Walt Disney Elementary School, and back then, 1990, 91, we got special perks for living nearby and attending a school named after Walt Disney. They would actually send costumed characters to our school, like say Mickey Mouse at Christmas, or in this case Brer Rabbit. And I could still remember performing the song Zippity Doo Dah in elementary school, you know, so it was a big deal. Actually, I could still even remember some of the moves, you know, Mr. Bluebird on my shoulder. But I was also at that age where seeing the first big transformation to a land in the park was also a very big deal, and this is when Critter Country first came into being with the opening of Splash Mountain, because previous to that, all of this area back here was known as Bear Country, and there's a very good reason for that, because this part of the park had been home to the old Country Bear Jamboree animatronic extravaganza. But you know what? Maybe I should back up. Originally, when they first expanded this part of the park in the 1950s to give themselves a little more room, you would have just been walking down a dirt trail along the rivers of America until you finally reached a cave through which you could access Disneyland's Indian Village. Now, I've done a whole long, exhaustive history of the old Indian Village in a different episode, complete with old footage and going through a list of the attractions and many, many changes the village underwent on the banks of the rivers of America. For example, back then, the Davy Crockett Explorer canoes were known as the Indian War canoes, and towards the end of the Indian Village's tenure, they had an old sod-roofed pioneer cabin established as the Indian Trading Post, the building for which still remains for now, right here as the Briar Patch. How about that? Anyway, there were various Native American dancers and crafts, a lot of different ambassadors from different nations interacting with the public in this little corner of Frontierland. And as much as for the time it was sort of a progressive and popular part of the park with guests and with the Native American hosts, the times, of course, did eventually change. And with the rise of the American Indian movement at the end of the 1960s, and something even more important, the construction of Walt Disney World, not only would the village here feel sort of out of touch and outdated, but one of the opening day attractions at Walt Disney World, the Country Bear Jamboree, proved to be such a mind-blowingly huge hit that they decided not just to build a West Coast version here at Disneyland, but to take what then was the aging Disneyland Indian Village and use the space to construct an entirely new land around it called Bear Country. So they kept the old trading post here, but where the native dance arena had been, they built the Hungry Bear restaurant, which when I was a kid was still brand new and very popular, both with bears and beavers. Hungry? Yes, indeed. I am a little peckish. And of course, much more importantly, underneath the Hungry Bear restaurant and underneath the railroad trestle bridge, they built this little covered bridge-like entrance to the brand new Country Bear Jamboree Theater. Now, of course, the Country Bear Jamboree still exists in Florida, so we all should know what it looks like. You know, it's still around to be viewed and enjoyed. But in Florida, it's sort of a signature attraction right in the middle of Frontierland. It didn't have its own themed land, Bear Country, constructed around it. And so the Disneyland version had some unique characteristics, such as, or rather, to be specific, this interesting set of buildings in the back of the park that very few people visiting the park today even noticed or bat an eye at, that contained a themed store. It was known as the Wilderness Outpost. It was right over here on the end. Then on the farther side, the tallest one of these facades right over there, the red part, was known as the Mile Long Bar. So named because when you came in here, there was an old-fashioned bar running against the wall, like a bar you sit at and drink. But against the walls on either side of the bar were mirrors. So if you were sitting at it, the effect, looking to the left or to the right, was that the bar was sort of endless, at least a mile long in either direction. Nowadays, of course, instead of a saloon, we've got a little bit of a bakery operation going on in here. It's known as Pooh Corner, and they're cooking up all those Disney treats that so many people get addicted to. And I probably should mention, by the way, that back then they didn't serve any alcohol anywhere in Disneyland. So the Mile Long Bar was really a saloon in theme only. It also had a couple of cool Easter eggs inside. They had static versions of the 3 mounted heads from the Country Bear show, Melvin, Buff, and Max. And up on the white sign in front of the building, rather than Critter Country, which came later, it was known as the John Coulter Building. He was one of the members of the Lewis and Clark expedition, so pretty cool reference there. And then last but not least, in the central portion of the building was Teddy Barra's Swingin' Arcade, which was exactly what it sounds like. Named, of course, for the last of the old-time swingers, Swingin' Teddy Barra, a female bear performer who came down out of the ceiling during the Country Bear Jamboree. Inside of this pretty tiny little space was an arcade. You had your standard video games and pinball, and if my memory is correct, you even had one of those things where you could put quarters in and watch one of the Country Bears dance and sing. It wasn't very popular, but it did survive here all the way up into the early 2000s, all the way through the transformation to Critter Country, which is why to this very day, if you look up to the left above the door, you will still see Teddy Barra's Swingin' Arcade painted on the top of the building. Anyway, this is all brand new and exciting stuff for the 1970s. And when they decided they needed another big e-ticket, big themed attraction, and came up with the Song of the South theme, and came up with Splash Mountain to reflect the change from Country Bears being the main attraction to, of course, Brer Rabbit and his friends, well, or more accurately, his frenemies, this miniature land, the first new land of my lifetime in 1989, was rechristened Critter Country. It's pretty exciting stuff, and considering that Disneyland hadn't had any kind of new land, and certainly no new construction on this scale for decades. It was the first time I had seen them construct a whole mountain where nothing else had ever been before. So I've always had a very soft spot for Critter Country in general, and of course, Splash Mountain in particular. Now all of this is relevant because, of course, eventually Splash Mountain here, while it won't technically go away, will be undergoing a serious re-theming. Like everything else that's ever been in Critter Country, soon it will be recycled and re-themed to be Tiana's Bayou Adventure. It will all be Princess and the Frog themed. And so just like Winnie the Pooh has nowadays taken over for the Country Bears, in this new millennium, gone will be Brer Rabbit, Brer Fox, and Brer Bear. And in their place will be a new generation's characters, Tiana and her friends, and so on. I'm also assuming we're gonna get a pretty trippy Dr. Facilier part in there. Huh? That could be cool. Now, certainly some people were angry, and are still angry, about the upcoming changes. And hey, I can certainly sympathize with that. As you know, I'm very into vintage Disneyland. I get very excited about and nostalgic for things that were part of my childhood, but wishes that things never had to change, and we could hold on to all of the good things and never grow up forever and ever. But the older I get, the more I realize no matter how hard you hold on, sometimes things are going to change. So you can throw all the pennies in the wishing well you want. But Tiana is coming, and although we'll miss our friend Brer Rabbit, it'll be interesting to see what they do out here. The cool thing about Critter Country is, despite all of the changes from the Indian Village to Bear Country to Critter Country, is that they've kept a lot of little bits and pieces of the history, as this part of Disneyland has been layered over with new stuff. For example, as I mentioned, the Briar Patch store is the old Indian trading post from that land. Lots of little bear paws, and of course the sign for Teddy Barra's Swingin' Arcade still exists from old Bear Country. And even where they replaced a beloved attraction, Melvin, Buff, and Max are still hidden inside Winnie the Pooh. Anyway, you can see why, since Splash Mountain is still here as I stand here, I'm spending as much time as I can soaking in the current version of Critter Country before the changes come a-rolling in. Not sure when the changes are rolling in Anaheim. I do know that the changes in Orlando, where they also have Splash Mountain, are imminent. In fact, Splash Mountain there is closing this month. I believe we'll have it a little while longer on the West Coast, and who knows, it might even last through the whole 100 Years of Wonder celebration. But I'm still hopping on that ride later before I leave, because you can't have too much Splash Mountain. You can get too wet and be too wet in the January, temperatures, but it's always been a favorite, so I try to ride it as much as I can. Speaking of changes at Disneyland in general, though, and Tiana changes in particular, just today they made a huge announcement that another Disneyland staple, another Disneyland favorite, is getting the Tiana treatment. Beloved restaurant that's been with us since 1966 is getting a little Tiana makeover, and like I said, just today, they have released concept artwork that shows the old school beloved French market transformed into Tiana's palace. She finally gets her restaurant after all. In the concept artwork, you can see that patio facing portion of the facade gets rethemed to look kind of like a steamboat. They got some smokestacks up there, and out on the balcony, apparently, if the artwork is anything to go by, we will get visits from Tiana herself. Of course, that balcony currently, or at least those windows on that balcony, currently lead into Club 33, so I'm not 100% sure that they can use that for character meet and greets, but it's not impossible for Tiana to visit Club 33. She's probably a member by now. And because the movie The Song of the South has been under controversy since it was released, rightly or wrongly, Splash Mountain has also been under controversy, and so of course many people see the change as just a concession to political correctness, which is possible, but even if that's the case, let's not forget that Critter Country itself replaced the Indian Village, and I must say that portion of the facade of the French market isn't doing anybody any favors anyways, and Tiana fits right in here in New Orleans Square, and she always wanted her own restaurant, and if you're going to change the theme to involve some IP, as the people who don't like the inclusion of movie stuff in the parks would say, at least, especially with the French market, you're doing it in a way that's thematically consistent. It fits right in here, and it's based on, dare I say it, a pretty good flick. It's not a bad movie. Good villains, trippy colors. What a fun one. I originally thought I was coming to Disneyland to just wander around and do a bunch of different stuff today. But given that so many changes are underway and they're literally right in your path, can't help but notice some of them, I figure why not walk around and check out the park as is for once. Look at that, right behind Pirates of the Caribbean. You can see all the scaffolding up on what is now going to be called the Adventureland Treehouse back there. Inspired by Swiss Family Robinson, which is a little strange considering it used to just be the Swiss Family Robinson treehouse. But maybe that means they're keeping some Tarzan theming? Who knows? That's been going on for a while now. That isn't really the interesting part. The interesting part is, look at this, the whole bridge into Adventureland. In fact, the whole entrance to Western Adventureland in general is completely blocked up by construction walls now. That is weird. You can't get into Adventureland from this side at all. Everything beyond Pirates of the Caribbean is closed. Hello, Jack. At least we have Jack Sparrow out here.
You stick that thing.
Oh, sorry about that. I'll point my cannon elsewhere.
Maybe that way.
You gotta be quick. I stole Jack Sparrow's joke. He always calls everybody's cameras cannons, because Canon cameras, point the cannon away, Anyway, what was I saying? Oh yes, everything past Pirates is closed. Blocked up by construction walls, causing a little bit of a traffic jam, but at least they have characters out here to sort of make up for it. This is very unusual to see, but honestly, as weird as it looks from over here, it looks even weirder on the Adventureland side. Come check this out really quick. If we make our way all the way out of Frontierland, we'll see exactly why it's so busy. You have to hop over to Adventureland out here, and once you do and head inside, it becomes apparent right away that something is very different. As a matter of fact, they have cast members out here letting everybody know the whole land will be a dead end, not next to the treehouse, but right after the Jungle Cruise. And look at this, it's not even after the Jungle Cruise. It's before you even get to the main Jungle Cruise building. They've got these poor cast members out here trying to let everybody know that the only thing open down this way is the Bengal Barbecue back there, which is still open. Everything comes to a pinch because of the walls, and you are forced right under its canopy, right to the counter there. And despite people continuously walking past to try to test their luck, as the sign says, there's no access beyond this point. And seriously, I keep seeing people coming down this way, thinking they're gonna squeeze through that gap and make it over there to New Orleans Square. But alas, unless you're hungry for some very tasty, but sadly not celiac friendly barbecue, you are SOL, which stands for solidly out of luck. And look at over here, the Jungle Cruise. You're still able to board that, but only through the weird, normally stroller area, formerly tropical import stand. This is where I used to buy Allie and London juice boxes, and I would always find cherry Coke in a bottle. Ooh. These days I'm usually looking for Coke Zero. I'm trying to cut out the sugar, you know? Wow. Don't worry, if you haven't been to Disneyland in a long time and you're worried about the tropical imports snack stand, it's right over here where they used to sell flip-flops and stuff in the old South Sea Traders building.
Pickles, pineapple spears, seedless grapes.
There it is, the Holy Grail.
Oh, these are delicious, John Lennon.
I know, sugar-free is lame, but let's face it, I'm old now and I've got a lot of weight to lose from the pandemic still.
Somebody put extra cheese on that burger, let me tell you.
Kind of cool that they still have the old Indiana Jones outpost area and the South Seas Traders interior, you know, the interior of both of the buildings open for seating for the Bengal barbecue today, and of course for my snacks.
Not that I normally enjoy my Doritos sitting down. Actually, usually I do, I guess, but usually sitting down in a car somewhere driving across America.
But anywhere at Disneyland, it's nice to take a seat. And even though Disneyland of the mid to late 90s will probably always be burned into my memory as my favorite time period.
And like I said, I wish all my favorite things could remain unchanged forever out here. Some of the most recent changes to the park have been great, like the Tropical Hideaway, some of the walkways that badly needed widening. There have been bad changes, like reservations and getting rid of the old annual passes.
But then there's been more good changes again.
Like good CEO changes, hey ho!
Point is, there's always sort of an ebb and flow. Sometimes good things, sometimes things you don't like as much. But ultimately, to even
be able to know that things are changing in a theme park and to get to be that familiar with a place like Disneyland is in and of itself quite a privilege. So I always try to keep it in perspective, like it is a theme park and we're lucky to be here. I feel super lucky to be out here today in the calm before the storm because the Disney company is about to turn 100 this year. And really in just a matter of days, Disneyland is going to start celebrating the 100 years of wonder, as they're calling it. And you know, there's going to be a whole bunch of changes coming for that. In fact, you're already starting to see like the popcorn buckets and stuff change, starting to see merch get into the parks for the 100 Years of Wonder celebration. Ooh, and I even noticed earlier that over here by the Sleeping Beauty Castle, they've added something that I'm pretty sure is new to the water down here. Look at that, there's some new fountain heads down in the water. Can't remember the last time I saw fountains in the water in front of the castle at Disneyland. It looks pretty silty, but there's also lights around the fountainhead down there. And I know in the artwork for the 100th anniversary of Disney Celebration, they've got new fountains down in the water here. So I think these are they. Or I think they are these. Them or those. They don't look new because that water's a little mucky down there. Look, there's one on this side too, and I've seen in the concept artwork fountains flanking the castle. I don't remember nozzles sticking up out of that water. Not for a long time, anyway. Well, then again, that could just be because I don't always pay attention. Anyhow, those are just some of the things I've noticed wandering around today. We will be here for the 100 Years of Wonder, so I'm sure we'll see a lot more. And I am bound and determined to ride Splash Mountain today. I'm just waiting for Allie to show up. She's meeting me here in a little while to go and take the plunge. Oh, speaking of changes, remember when they took the French fry rocks out? Another good change. Good change. Now they just need to get rid of that thing. Put those rockets back on top of the People Mover where they belong. I guess first they have to get a People Mover again, and that might take a while, but still. Oh, can you imagine that? A new People Mover. Someday, Jennifer. Someday.
Whoa, would you look at the size of that hat?
I thought my hat was big. That was one sick lid. Oh my gosh. I just remembered over at DCA today, it's Mighty Ducks Day. Or I guess now just Anaheim Ducks Day. I think they have the team over there. There's a bunch of people in DCA dressed up in their Ducks outfits and jerseys. Look, there's one over here. They're starting to spill over because I think the Ducks are long gone from that park. But what that means is my #1 Ducks-loving friend should be over here in this park by now.
Now all I gotta do is find him. Perhaps we can locate him in the Old West.
He's gotta be around here somewhere.
Ooh, nice and empty in the Golden Horseshoe today.
Where is that varmint?
Why, there he is!
It's old gutless Gully George, the wildest cowboy in the wilderness.
What happened, dude? You saw the Ducks?
Yeah.
On parade?
Max Jones pointed at me.
Oh, they're all riding the boat. Oh yeah, 'cause
Yeah.
they all know you because you work for them.
And like he's laughing because he saw me. It's pretty funny.
He's laughing because you paid like a sucker, dude.
I didn't pay to get in.
Oh, okay, never mind. George is a huge fan of the D, dude. A big old web-footed duck lover. Trying to convince George to ride Splash Mountain with me.
Not happening.
He doesn't like water. Weird. You should like water. You're a duck. Quack. Quack, quack, quack. Oh, that George. He's always goofing around. I know he's gonna come with me. Just make our way out of the Golden Horseshoe here, out into the wild streets of Frontierland, back across that beautiful river, and over to the Mountain of Splash. Prince Harry? All right, it's finally happening, or should I say, it's going down. Thanks for coming with me, George. You won't be a wet blanket, but you might get wet. George, what did you just say? You don't want to go on this ride?
I really don't want to go on this ride.
Why not?
I don't.
Well, you don't have to, George, but also you kind of do now. It's too late.
I haven't been on this since like 2013.
Oh, come on. At least the water's turned down for the winter. They can do that, you know, miniaturize the splash. They have the technology. You're gonna go with me though, right? You're getting on.
Yeah.
Yeah, friendship. Woo-hoo-hoo. Yeah, crow time too, dude. The nightly murder at Disneyland, as my friend Ken Stack says. This is it. We're back. Oh, I love Splash Mountain. The great thing about waiting to ride it is, look at this. Nobody is in line right now. It got colder outside, just cold enough that almost everybody lost interest. All right, here we go. Up the stairs, onwards to the laughing place, George. Don't you love this line? I love it when it's empty. What a fun one. We got the whole line. Oh, fun's over. Other people. Why you gotta touch everything, George? Oh, this is always a great part of the line. The part where you can finally see people getting loaded into the boats. The part where you finally have hope that you might make it onto the ride eventually. And when they first opened this attraction, I can remember waiting in like a 3-4 hour line just to ride it. I don't think anybody would wait now. How long is the line? Oh wait, you just said you were 1 when it opened.
I was 0.
Oh, you were 0. What, July 1989? You weren't even alive?
Say again?
July 89, you weren't alive?
Yeah. In fact, I was 1. I was born in July 88.
Oh, okay, so you were 1 year old. 1 year old.
1 year old.
So you can ride this ride at all because you didn't meet the minimum height requirement, George. The funny part about this ride and changing it is that it's all concrete. So, I mean, how much are they actually going to change, you know? Will we see these familiar tunnels? Perhaps Tiana, where we now see Brer Rabbit? I have to imagine, just for to keep the budget from escalating, that they'll keep most of this existing structure. You know what? Forget I said any of that, George. No time for philosophizing. We're almost on the ride. All right, here it is, our last chance to exit. Don't take it, George. Don't take it. Oh, and here it is. Our log. There's Brer Rabbit right there. We're getting in the front. You excited, bro?
No.
Make sure you turn your hat backwards, dude. Don't lose your hat.
Don't tell me what to do.
Don't lose your hat.
Don't tell me what to do.
Oh.
Safety, just stay seated with your hands, arms, feet, and legs inside the log, and be sure to watch your kids. Have a zippity-doo-dah ride.
At least they have the splashes turned down low, dude. Don't worry. We're only gonna get mostly wet. Mostly wet. Whoa, whoa. That's a bouncy log. Yeah, splash down. Woo. Woo. Oh boy, we're kind of front heavy in this log. We are gonna get splashed, dude.
I'm already wet.
Oh, we got molasses. An owl. I love that owl. Why is it so vibrating? And gently down. I love this ride. There's Brer Rabbit's house right there, right in the old briar patch. Somebody lives there, we don't know who, and there's Brer Fox. A guy who doesn't make great decisions, dude. Just look at where his house is. Come on. Not wise in the ways of real estate, I suppose. How you doing, George? You okay? George is unhappy because he's on Splash Mountain. Oh, here we go, dude. Look at that view. Come on. Who could hate that? That is a beautiful, beautiful sight. Oh, and that is a nice sight. Oh, dude, did you know, back when this used to be bear country and you used to come in through a cave, there would be a snoring bear named Rufus. And he's still there. In Brer Bear's lair. All right, George, here we go. First splash. Slip and fall, slip and fall, slip and fall. Oh, I'm so wet. I'm so wet. You okay? So much water. Oh. This is not a good sign that we're so wet. Dude, it's not a good sign. Oh, no. It is not a great sign how wet we're already getting. And we're not even to the big splash. Oh boy, here we go. It's a rump. It's a rump. It's a rump. Oh my God. My crotch is soaked. The camera's soaked. Freezing cold. Dude, my crotch is wet. My crotch is a pond. Oh, this was a bad idea. This was a horrible idea. I really hope I have other pants in the van. I hate you. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I can't even talk. I can't even talk. We found our laughing place. We found our laughing place. I know. The lighting is bad. Okay, here we go, dude. I'm so wet. Oh God. This is tough. Dude, the bag is wet. Everything's wet. Oh my gosh. Jordan, I'm so sorry for this. But at least we will always have a great memory of Splash Mountain together. Here we go, friend. Oh my gosh, it's so steep. Hold on tight. Oh my God, my bag is full of water. I hope that recorded. I might not have got. Look, the camera's dripping. I'm dripping. My bag is full of water. I've never been this wet. Oh, drenched.
Dude, it's literally like I fell into a pool.
Oh yeah, it's January. Oh my gosh. Well, I hope it was worth it for all of you, because it's definitely not worth it for us. We are now completely drenched, dude. We are both of our cell phones are probably destroyed. The camera is drenched. I hope you can even hear what I'm saying, but at least we did it. We rode Splash Mountain. Are you so loud, dude? I'm still dripping. Dripping in the fucking Dude, my pants, there's still water just sitting on it like a pond. Yeah, oh my God. It's so bad, dude. Dude, look, there's not a dry spot on my pants except for there, by the knee. It is solid wet, dude. Oh, there it is. There's the picture. Seconds before disaster. Look, that's the moment I knew. It's going down. I knew, dude. I knew. Like, this is not going to be good. At least we visited our laughing place, right? Yeah, look at your glasses, dude. They're covered.
I was walking in the rain.
Woo! Well, they warned us on that sign, dude. You may get wet.
Yeah.
They weren't kidding around.
Fair warning, I guess.
Dude, how much do you hate me right now? The bag is full of water. The camera is soaked. My pants are so heavy, they feel like they're going to fall off. There's so much water in them. That is the most wet I have ever gotten from a theme park ride, dude. Jurassic Park, Splash Mountain here, Splash Mountain at Disney World, Splash Mountain at Disney World in the rain. I have never been this soaked. And you wanted nothing to do with this ride in the first place. So how much do you hate me right now? You love me, bro. What? What?
An honest 7. I hate you, an honest 7.
7 out of what, 10?
10.
Okay, 3 more to go. We got 3 more to go. Oh, it's so bad, dude. Okay.
We need a very warm ride. A very warm ride.
Well, at least we didn't have to stand in a long line. Look how long the line is now. Doesn't that make you happy, George? Make you feel better? I can tell it doesn't. Okay. All right. Well, George is off. He's on his way to go dry out somewhere and enjoy his time without me.
I'm supposed to meet up with Allie to have dinner, but I think I'm gonna head back to the van and hopefully I'll find a pair of extra pants in there.
I hope there isn't.
What?
I hope there aren't any. No pants, no
Why,
chance.
George? No pants, no chance. But anyway, gang, we came, we saw, we splashed. That means we've done our duty. We can go home and
Dry off.
Ooh, that's a pin they gave you, or you bought it?
I stole it. You can put it.
How's the phone, dude?
I don't know where I can put it.
Yeah, see, you have to carry it, dude. Carry it.
It's fine.
Okay, it works?
No, it's not on.
It's never coming
it's
on
good, it's
again.
good,
Okay,
it's
we're good.
My shoes are squishing like
What a fun one, Jorb! That border fence is right there. And even without seeing the fence, I would know I was close because look at Julio. Sí, Julio. Mucho. No, I don't think so.
Nobody loves the Random Land Alf.
I love you, bro.